Well, hello there, everyone. I'm here to show you the connections related to. It's like talk about together, and basically we have it to where that is like talk about like using right here is the blue. It's like talking about for together, and talking about I'm like yeah that this could be known as like what you call as like the sequel. But on the other hand, that knowing about that you have for like part two of knowing about for connections related, talking about whenever people meet each other, especially whenever they meet each other, and then whenever they it's like the special you say that type of connection for meeting. And a lot of times though that I don't know anybody that I tend to wonder though that that if people meet and then they have a special connection, maybe if they were to go to a meeting or something like that, like that they were to meet somewhere, somewhere like maybe at a cafe, coffee, like a coffee shop or food court or something like that, that they actually meet somewhere, and then they find each other once again, somewhere else, and then they finally get to know each other, and like, yeah, that knowing about that we may not be related, but on the other hand, that knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that there's something pretty common in between us. But on the other hand, right here, I'll hand you right here an example right here of a man and a woman, and basically that. And I'll be working just a little bit fast, and apologize if I work a little bit too fast. But while I'll be talking, is just to add some detail right here. It's like for the mouth and of course for the eyes. But on the other hand, this activity right here is basically one thing I did want to mention. That I did not mention from the other one about adoption. And I'm sure that there are a few families. Family and friends that they had to where a lot of their family members or friends that if it's going to be like half brothers and half sisters, cousins, that more likely to where that they were adopted. And it could be that if it's adoption or if it's a foster care or anything like that. But on the other hand, that knowing about that with most of the time with how people actually connect and meet each other. And we may think though that a lot of times like on the internet nowadays that wondering about that whenever you meet somebody online, or if it's anything related to like say any type of social media like Facebook it is, but basically that I went and drew this these cross hairing these guidelines like right here. I went and drew right here it's a hand, and then right here is like the shoes like from whenever the man and woman knowing about for where where the arms would be, and then where the legs would be, and just like the whole part, say the whole body it is. And basically that if the woman were to have like a dress on or something like that. But on the other hand, that I'll be drawing in details right here. It's like if this right here was the arm, and I'm like yeah that like if the woman were to be wearing any type of particular dress. And the way I want to draw this right here on my top, I'm like yeah that let's just say if the gown that she was wearing and like came if it was what you call it, one of those shirt like top the one of those skirts to where that I'm like yeah that drawing the arm right here, and then knowing about for how it comes out to where it connects to the arm, and then you have right here is the shoulders, and then for if she were be wearing any type of dress or anything like that. And the way I went and drew this right here is if actually the woman were to have her arm wrapped around the guy's neck, the guy around the shoulders. And I'll go ahead and draw it here is like if the hand were and it'd be coming about right here. Yeah, I guess that looks more like something maybe couples. I'm like talk about these for together like couples, and then the guy, I'm like yeah that that the lady were to have her arm wrapped around the guy's shoulder, and then let's just say that from a particular way of how they I'm like if I can go ahead and I don't know the other like let's just say that if the guy's hand were to come at about right here, that his hand too would be wrapped around the back, around the back of the lady. And it's like the type of connections to where that yeah that do these people really have to be hugging and holding each other. But I'm like talking about it's like a lot of times with most pictures though, whenever pictures are taken, that a lot of times that we may have it to where that that we see this type of connection right here, to where that you got right here the man and a woman, and then you have right here is you got that, you know, the guy right here, and a lot of times whenever I look at the, you know, the pictures that I had pictures of me whenever I was young, I keep thinking about, you know, how the arm length, you know, comes out, and you know, from, you know, how the arm, your position of the arm is usually drawn, and then right here from the legs, and from how I'm drawing this, I'm using right here is like you're drawing it from, like, for what I, you know, drew from the picture, knowing about how this, you can connect you to this other part of the picture, to where how the arms expand. But on your hand, and knowing about right here is, if you have right here's the lady's body right here, you got right here's the pants, and if she would be wearing any type of dress, and I'm sure anybody here would probably say that, you know, if you want to draw the lady, if she were wearing any type of gown, you know, a special dress or anything like that, I'm like, well, I'm sure work out something here that I'm sure most ladies would probably say that dresses, you know, dresses are for that reason, to where that you know, they wear them, you know, because that they think, you know, look nice. And like with the guys may wear those type of tuxedos, like, you know, type outfits, or anything, you know, the bow ties, or, you know, something like that. But on your hand, and knowing about that the whole purpose about the connections related, one thing I did not, you know, mention, of course, you know, from the other one, you know, the other, you know, activity was is talking about, you know, adoption. And like anybody that may wonder, though, that I'm like, you know, yeah, that with most of the time, with most adoption, that you know, talking about, you know, for how if we're going to be if there's going to be a kid involved, knowing about, I'm like, you know, yeah, that you know, goes by saying, it's like the long story short is that that for between the biological and then, of course, the adopted, you know, parents, and then you know, it could be, you know, something that's you know, related to the whole purpose about, you know, like that, you know, the foster parents or anything like that. I'm like that talking about, you know, the people that you were raised with, and then on your hand, and knowing about, you know, if there's more likely anybody that could be, like, say, you know, going by maybe it's like the wonder knowing about, I'm like, whenever we're growing up, that we may tend to have those questions, to where that you know, that the birthdays, you know, the birthdays that may fall on maybe a different day, you know, such as, you know, somebody tell, like, that you were born at 8 a.m. on this day or something like that, and then knowing about, like, you know, these parents that they raised you, but then they are not your biological parents, you know, something like that. And it could be knowing about that, you know, these couples right here, that, or it could be just a single mom or a single dad that may have decided that they go out and have a kid, and then you know, like, yeah, they grow up, and then they have, you know, children also. But I'll draw right here is the eyes right here, like if this was like, you know, man and woman, and knowing that you know, they a lot of times wondering that that we may wonder, though, if these couples, is, say, if they're still together. And then I'll go ahead and right here go with another pencil. I'm like that I got about see three. I have about maybe 5 or 6 different kinds. You know, including the charcoal. And if anybody wants to know, I'm like, yeah, I use a little bit of charcoal, a little bit, you know, maybe for the drawing as well. I'm like, if you can add just a little bit of drawing detail for what the skirt looks like and the clothing and stuff. But on the hand, knowing about, with most of the time, with if we were to be, you know, drawing pictures, though, that the type of I talking about, you know, for it's if it's you know, English related, I'm like, you know, for any type of English class, knowing about between man and woman, that they go to the library together, and then, you know, they or so, you know, that they do this, you know, they go read books together, and then they go to the coffee shop, the cafe together, and then the next thing you know, they said that they went to, you know, both her and him, you know, went to the theaters together, you know, something like that. But you have right here is the drawing right here is that, you know, 2 couple, like they could be, you know, like you said, I might that a lot of times I even hear about it. I'm like, yeah, especially whenever a man and a woman, whenever you get married, though, that usually they say that yeah, that you got a connection with the family from the wives, from the spouse's side of the family, and then of course with the husband's side of the family, if they call it that, maybe the groom or somebody like that. But on the other hand, that knowing about with most of the time that if it goes by saying about the whole purpose about the family tree, knowing about that you have these people and trying to understand about who they are. And a lot of times, though, that if we wonder, though, if a lot of that is all about maybe about a little bit about marriage, it's like that whenever people get married and then maybe whenever they separate also, but let's just say if they were to get married, that knowing about that that he or she or him that they are the son or the cousin of that side of the family. I'm like that knowing about it seems like it's always go by the question to where that I'm like, yeah, that hey, that they are the son or daughter from the half brother or from the biological aunt or uncle or grandma, the great grandma, from the other person, side of the family, something like that. But and half the time, anybody that may wonder though that it's hard to keep track of really who's who, and I'm like, yeah, that especially whenever it comes to family reunions, that you're trying to remember everybody's name and who's who, and it goes by saying it's like from the past 15 years that that whenever people are still friends and talking about with the meeting, but on your hand too, it's like if we're talking about maybe adoption also, that if there's a parent that adopted a kid and knowing about, I'm like, yeah, the kid grows up, but knowing about exactly about that they feel that knowing about that they for the adopted name and go by saying it's like if they're adopted and then they may say that about maybe if it's related to maybe the skin color or maybe the look of knowing about whenever they're adopted, that for whatever reason that anybody that says that you don't really feel say part of the connection, a lot of ways that you probably think, hey, I'm like, you don't feel a part of the family because that you realize, or maybe you already know that that you were adopted, and the parents basically accept you part of the family, and even know that they may say that, well, you got a totally different blood type, so they are those are not your real parents, you don't even belong with those those two people, something like that, and I can tell anybody here that from the blood type, and I don't know, I'm like that there may be people out there that more likely they may have the same blood type, and on our hand and knowing about, I'm like, that people that we run into, people that we meet, and knowing about that really about the whole purpose about the connections here, knowing about that if it's adoption or if it's a foster care, or if it's anything that's related to jobs, like you met this person at a job, and basically that the whole purpose about what are the requirements for keeping a certain connection. And there may be a lot of people that may say that nearly 50% of the answer is mainly that you have to have a trusted relationship with them, not really about anything that's related to who's big and who's smarter than the other, like talking about that anything you can do I can do better or anything like that. But I just really think that knowing about maybe the trusted relationship, and on your hand too, that knowing about sharing a thing, but on your hand that like anybody that may say that really goes on for years, and knowing about between the step families and the half families, these two couples, it could be the biological brother from the biological family, it could be an aunt or uncle, and then they meet this person, and then they go out and have children, and the children grow up, and then they go out and get married, and then they have kids, and then I'm like, yeah, whole purpose about whenever the babies grow up. Whenever the babies grow up, it just seems like that a lot of times that knowing about that how is a family tree supposed to get bigger? But on your hand, let's just say that with the most of the time, it's like if we be like using right here a baby boy, and say with the baby that knowing about that that the kid grows up and then they go out and meet somebody, and then they have kids. Talk about, yeah, well, who's who? Well, yeah, I'm the cousin, or I'm the step uncle. I'm Uncle. I guess I can maybe call you Uncle Payson or something like that. Uncle Pazer or something like that. Uncle Payson. And this is my wife. This is my wife Limian or something like that. Yeah. Talk about especially if it's family reunions or if it's weddings or anything like that. Anybody probably saying yeah. Really, you may not know exactly who's who. It's like talking about that, yeah. That you go by different last names, really. And anybody that may say that, you deal with that almost every day, that anywhere you go to, if it's weddings or anniversaries, baby showers, whichever type of special occasions, and that they go out and have a kid, and then it's that they go by different last names, and on your hand too, that they were raised in different towns. It's like that they, let's just say, I'll just maybe pick a random, if we were talking about neighbors, if we're wondering about, our neighbors related? And I could probably tell you, not really, but let's just say if you had a certain connection with neighbors, that you grew up and you met each other whenever you were very young. Let's just say that you and the neighbor's young son or daughter, the little baby boy or girl that met each other, that you used to, hang out, go bike riding together, that you met each other maybe in a sandbox or something like that. And then all of a sudden it's like that, and then after about maybe 5 years later that you meet up again, and a lot of things that you remember doing whenever you were babies, such as hanging out, on the swing and in the sandbox, something like that. And that right there is a boy, but let's just say I can draw also right here as a baby girl, and anybody that may wonder though, I'm yeah, usually the girl's hair, the female's hair, is usually just a little bit fluffier. Here's a girl's hair, just a little bit fluffier, and then you have right here is the chin, but yeah, talking about, yeah, I'm not really talking about any baby girl that is about 18 months old or something, but just a baby girl. I'm yeah, I'm trying to talking about, you try and draw it in there, and then yeah, but here right here is a baby girl. And with this baby girl right here, most of the time with most babies, that they could be about, maybe, 5 pounds and 13 ounces, something like that. Anybody probably say, but would you call it for a perfect healthy baby? But anyway, got there is draw the fingers, draw the little baby fingers. But anyway. But talk right here is a baby girl, and I talking about a neighbor's kid, a neighbor's kid that the neighbor's kid that they meet each other when they're very young, and then all of a sudden it's like that in the neighborhood, we used to like to play with Legos, and like to roll the can or something like that. I like that they used to hang out maybe in the backyard whenever they were very young, and well. Here, you were very young whenever it was going on, but yeah, you used to hang out on the swing together, something like that. Knowing about that, yeah, she was actually a friend of yours. Apparently, that there was a neighbor right next door that these two couples right here. I'm talking about the young kids, and anybody that may wonder though that yeah, that this son or daughter was a daughter of your neighbors, and let's just say that if you meet each other several years later and talking about, I'm yeah, that you got a certain connection with them, and knowing about really to answer the question, knowing about really can young neighbors, I'm certain that they could probably say that yeah, it can be arranged. Can they get married by the time they grow up and then they want to share their lives together, something like that? And talking about right here with these two babies, and Anybody that may wonder, though, I'm like, if you want to go ahead and maybe add some triplets, of course, in the background, I'm like, yeah, if you had triplets right here, go ahead and start right here with the legs, but, if you want to go ahead and maybe use, some triplets as an example, I'm like, if we all know basically what triplets are, babies that were born on the same day, and, knowing about what these triplets right here, the triplet babies, and, they grow up, they always like knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that, if any tripleted families have ever had that, situation to where they argue about which side of the cake, that all three of these babies that were born on the same day, so they're all going to have the same birthday. But on your hand, that knowing about, I'm like, we had all these triplet babies, and go ahead and add a little bit of the hair too, but, I'm like, I'm not working with one of those programs such as Photoshop where I can real copy and create a duplicate and say image, but I'll go ahead and draw here is like you got right here, working like this design, maybe like I don't know about a gingerbread man, but go ahead and draw this, the legs right here, and then the leg, the arms, and then the legs. But you have right here are these triplets right here. And most of the time with anybody that may say that, I usually say that, with triplets though, that you go by the same birthday, but on your hand, that knowing about, I'm like, yeah, yep, you raised together, and then, you did stuff together, and knowing about, I'm like, yeah, and then next thing you know, I'm like, yep, knowing about with these three triplets, and you do stuff together, and then knowing about the connections, that knowing about one baby whenever they grow up, that knowing about that they actually meet somebody, and if anybody has ever wondered about that, about triplet brothers and sisters, and that they were all born on the same day, and then share their birthdays, but then on your hand too, that knowing about one of them that. It says that they grow up and then they go out and move on with their career or something like that, and then they all go out and get married, and talking about, wondering about, well, we all got the same birthday, so we'll keep in touch with each other, just knowing about, we'll go ahead and we'll call each other just to say, happy birthday to each other, etc., etc. But on your hand that you have right here, and I drew those with the pencil, and then I can go ahead and use right here is the green crayon right here, and anybody that may wonder, though, I'm like, yeah, use besides crayons though, but I'm like, well, with the crayons, and try drawing a little bit if they had like these green outfits on. But on your hand, I'm like, yeah, one that looks bigger than the other. I'm like, well, I tell you one thing, try to draw triplets, and knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that why is it the one has brown eyes and one of them that has blue eyes, and the other one has like a mixture type color. But anyway, but you have right here is these triplets, and let's just say these call it maybe a little bit of the circle group, or something like that. But you have these connections with people that more likely that they may not be related, and in any way other than the fact about if it's from the adopted side of the family, or if it's anything to do with maybe about if they you were neighbors at one time. You were neighbors at one time, and then you all of a sudden you finally found each other within several years later, and just talking about, I'm like, hey, hey, I remember you, yeah, we used to be neighbors. Hey, I remember you, yeah, we used to work at the office together, or something like that. And knowing about whenever people reconnect, and knowing that they say that we would like for you to work for us, something like that, or like talking about the whole purpose about friendship, and about connections, and I guess the whole purpose about this activity is talking about how more likely about what do connections usually mean to people, is knowing about whenever you go out and meet people, is this all about the fact about that you know, if you do or do not get along with these people, and knowing about them like that, well, you know, you only have to deal with it for maybe during a certain amount of time of the year, until that they go ahead and move on, transfer somewhere else, whichever. And talking about, a lot of times whenever people move away, it seems like that well, you know, they ain't gonna remember you very well. Let's just say it's been 20 years. It's been 20 years, and then they're not going to remember you, you know, etc., etc. You know, you went to the movies together at one time. You know, you used to go to ballet together. You know, you used to do stuff like that. And the whole purpose about being together, and like anybody that may wonder, though, that if it's going to be like anything that's related to adoption. And that goes by saying, like, a long story, and knowing about that, yeah, that if it's anything that's related to, you know, like anybody that may say about that, you know, for like a, you know, birth certificate, and, you know, talking about that, coming up to that situation to where somebody tells you the truth about something, such as that, you know, who your real brother and sister, who your real parents are, you know, you don't have a valid birth certificate, etc., etc. But on the hand, and knowing about that, the way I would suggest, though, that I'm like, yeah, you know, the parents, I'm sure they say that, you know, the kid's going to probably be asking later on about the whole truth of matters, and like talking about, I'm like, yeah, that, especially on the application, a job application, ask you about the name, and then, you know, maybe about, you know, blood type, or, you know, it could be anything that's related to, you know, doctors, or like, you know, about your, you know, cousins, whoever, like, how long it's been since you've seen your aunts and uncles, and knowing about that, yeah, that for how you were raised. And then, you know, nowadays with social media sites like Facebook, that you may run into people, you know, you may meet other people, and then they may say something such as that, you know, I remember you, you know, you used to be, you know, we went to the dance together. You know, you asked me to dance, and I can tell anybody here that that, you know, I'm sure that there's been a couple of moments to where that you were going to say something to somebody at some time, but then you changed your mind. You were going to maybe ask them to go ask them to dance with you. You came up real close to them, such as if you want to ask them a question. You see it on those movies, to where that, you know, somebody, you walk up to somebody, and you want to ask them a question, such as, you know, would you like to sit down and have a cup of coffee with me, or something like that, or that, you know, would you like to go to the movies with me, or go to the prom, or, you know, like something like that, you know, do something with you, and you were afraid to ask. And the whole situation goes by saying, that with most guys can probably say that they are afraid to speak up, and knowing about that they walk up to somebody, and then they are busy talking to you know, their friends, and you know, whoever that they're with, and then they kind of look at you. It's like, okay, who are you, and what are you doing here? Like, okay, what are you doing? Like, and who are you? And like, oh, nothing. But on the hand, that we may wonder, though, the whole purpose about, you know, if it's going to be like anything such as proposal or reunited. And you know, and the way I would think about it, that I come up to that situation too, to where that knowing about whenever people you know, recognizes somebody, or that they want to ask them something, and they are afraid to just walk up to them and start telling them. But you know, start talking to them, you know, like telling them about, you know, introducing themselves, you know, stuff like that. But the way I would think about it, though, is the whole purpose about, you know, connections related, is knowing about that you have these, you know, talk about stories about that whenever people meet each other, if it's going to be at a meeting, or meeting them at the park or somewhere like that, somewhere, you know, maybe out in public, and knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that you know, you want to ask them, you know, if you would like to join them for lunch, or if you wouldn't go to the movies with them, or something like that, and you're afraid to speak up. Yeah, well, I'm afraid to call them. You know, I'm afraid that they're going to say no, and you know, I won the tickets to the baseball game, or something like that, or the basketball game, you know, etc., etc. and you want to invite somebody to something like talking about like, yeah, well, I'm afraid to say anything because that knowing about they need to know who I am first before they say yes or no. But like, yeah, well, I don't know you. Why would they want to go to the movies with you for somebody that they don't know? But anybody that may say that, I'm like, well, the whole purpose about this whole matter about the relations, family relate, like talk about connections related, if it's family and friends, and knowing about that maybe that we may say that that to take time to where that maybe we can kind of gradually get to know each other, and knowing about them like that this whole connections part of talking about if there's really such thing as goodbye, take care, best for the future, something like that, or if it's all about that the whole trusted relationship of whenever people meet, and knowing about if they want to go ahead and kind of carry on the connection. And like anybody that may wonder, though, if you run in that situation to where if you run into some people who were your friends, but then they wind up becoming your enemies later on, or your bullies, or they start pushing you around and not really being a trusted friend, connection it is. But on your hand, that talking about right here is like for connections related, is that people who are you may not be related to them, but on your hand and knowing about was like for the man and woman, and basically that if it's going to be anything that's related to adoption or anything like that, and like talking about, I'm like, that you were very young whenever you seen your aunt or so, aunt or uncle so and so, but on your hand and knowing about, I'm like, they remember you very well. That they are the one that brought you, that they brought you candy, every year, or on the special occasions like Halloween, or maybe that that the baby girl, baby, like if it's baby Elena, or somebody like that, like baby girl, the baby boy, the baby niece, or somebody like that, the stepsister, step cousin, whichever it is, the step brother, half brother, that they dressed up as this person on Halloween, and knowing about, I'm like, that it's like, you go by the different last names. How are we related? And anybody that may wonder, though, that story goes back nearly about 25 years ago, as knowing about that, knowing about that, they may not be related, but on the other hand, too, that knowing about, I'm like, that there's a certain time of the year to where knowing about that really, do people really deserve to be alone, especially on the holidays, and knowing about, no, they're not alone, that they're with somebody else, that they, no matter if they're related or not, but on their hand and knowing about, I'm like, anybody that may say that, I'm like, that talking about, it's like, if we had these different families, it is, and basically talking about, I'm like, you had these different families, and let's just say that one kid like me right here is like talk about Matthew, and then there's somebody else there by the name of Megson. I say it, Megson. If there's somebody else by the name of Megson there, and then let's just say that there's another person by Megan. Let's just say I can go ahead and use Megan. So how about I say Megson and then Megan, Matthew, Megson, and Megan, and then there's besides M's, I can go ahead and put like Alexia. Go ahead and put, maybe you say for A, or for say like E for like say for Alexia, but on the other hand, to know about you have these people right here, like these children, and basically that they could have been raised by a different family, by a different couple, maybe a single mom or a single dad, and knowing about, I'm like, as long as we're together and knowing it's like, for happy, but like, and don't worry, be happy, but anyway, but talking about special occasions and knowing about for how people connect, and knowing about it's like for the connections related, it's like talk about it's like for two, like talk so far together, knowing about that there may be what you call nearly 500 members of the family, but then that certain person only may know about maybe 5 or maybe 6 or maybe 10 or 11 altogether or something like that. But anyway, but talk about here, talk about here for the connections related. It's like two that I talk about is like for the color activity. It's talk about say for family relations. It's like talk about family and friends relations with the connections related to toxic color activity.